So how are you feeling just in the wake of everything that's happened this week?
Well, very good. I didn't make it out to DC. California is on fire, and I wanted to be close to home. My entire community is here. Lots of people impacted. But I did watch with great enthusiasm, seeing President Trump get to the Oval Office with piles of executive orders in front of him. I watched with great interest, read many of them, really happy the direction that these go. I think his base and many others in the country are very happy to see a return to sanity. And then, the folks that are concerned that some of these actions might end up heavy-handed, I think it's our responsibility to keep that conversation open. We're one country. We're one country for the people. And we have a leader right now who understands how to get there. And so I think that, here in California, I like to think of myself as serving a bridge of information. I don't try to add sensationalism in the conversation, but I do like to stick to the details and help alleviate through some of the misinformation that the mainstream media is politicizing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to tell the audience, this is Charlie Kirk posted this morning. It's a list of the executive orders we got yesterday, among other things. He writes as follows. On day 2, the president restored merit-based hiring at the FAA. Yes, that's important. The people who govern the planes in the sky, ending an insane Obama-era push to put travelers' lives in the hands of incompetents hired for diversity reasons. There should be no DEI hires anywhere, but certainly not at the FAA. In medical schools, in residency programs, anything involving human life, even the far left must see how the insanity of it, whether they do or they don't. It's stopping today at the FAA. He ordered the closure of all federal DEI offices, as I said a moment ago. He ordered the repeal of LBJ's infamous executive order, which mandated affirmative action instead of merit-based hiring in federal employment and federal contracting. That's huge. He prohibited the use of all racial discrimination or DEI at federal contractors and universities receiving taxpayer dollars. Now, let's just pause there. That is wonderful. I don't know how we enforce that. Prohibited the use of racial discrimination or DEI, which is the same thing. It is the same thing. Racial discrimination against whites is illegal. It's illegal against blacks, against Asians, all the groups. It doesn't make it any better to do it against whites because the country has a history of doing it to blacks. It's just not the way the law is written, the civil rights laws. So he's saying you can't racially discriminate at universities that get taxpayer dollars, which is almost all of them. You can't use DEI at these universities. I mean, Nicole, you know as well as I do, there's going to be a revolt. You can't tell these universities that because they won't listen.
The conversation is happening. I was just on a phone call yesterday with a farmers association that went woke because it felt like it had to. And as a result, this farmers association wasn't actually able to do the things for the farmers that the farmers were asking. And so they went irrelevant. And that's what these policies do, is they make institutions that need to get stuff done irrelevant. At best, at worst, it makes them dangerous. In the case of the fire department in LA, these policies are dangerous policies. They normalize this idea of failing upwards, something that my friends and I are noticing all the time. It's these people are failing and they're getting promoted. And these positions are not ceremonial. They are being treated as if they are ceremonial. These are not ceremonial roles. These are roles requiring execution, performance, excellence, competition. Competition is good. It's good for the people, it's good for the economy, and it's necessary for the execution of duties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we've taken a massive step away from that, as you know, and this is the public's rejection. His election is the public's rejection of that nonsense. So I don't know what's going to happen at these universities. Telling them that they are not allowed to use DEI if they receive taxpayer dollars, I think they're just going to ignore it. So the question is, how does that get enforced? Does Trump actually pull the federal dollars when we get complaints?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you ways that they can redact applicant information to take out anything related to race. I've worked on an AI that actually does that. That AI exists. It's being actually used in some district attorneys' offices across the country to redact out any information about race, and languages spoken and background. I mean, so it's possible to execute very seamlessly. And I can argue it's actually a good use of AI. There's many bad, misguided uses of AI, but there's ways to enforce it. I don't know that you necessarily want to enforce it. It is in the best interest. Like the market demands that we get beyond race-based dictation of policies. And so I believe that it is truly in the best interest of these universities, because they're going to shoot themselves in the foot when these individuals go out into the world and they've basically been taught that they can fail up, and they're going to be required to compete again in the market. And those individuals are not good donors to the universities down the road. So it's really, really, I think, in everyone's best interest, just going back to basic economics, like we need competition. We need real competition. And policies that weaken our institutions, it's cannibalistic. They're cannibalizing their own reputations.
It's also illegal. I mean, it's blatantly illegal. You may not hire based on race at all. It cannot even be a factor. That's really clear under the law. We just pretended for a few years that those laws did not exist. And like Trump's 100% right. This is unconstitutional. This is unlawful to hire based on race at all. If they even consider a person being black, white, brown, Asian, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's unlawful. So they're going to ignore that one at their peril. What he's saying here is, we're going to enforce the law. And they're going to have battles, Nicole, because we played this a while ago. I don't know if you remember this case because you're out in California. It happened at Stanford Law when Erwin Chemerinsky, who's the dean out there, had a bunch of students who he had over to his home graciously to, get together and talk about the law, turned it into a pro-Palestinian protest against him for like no particular reason, and really got in his face and the face of his wife. So he was in the news, and he was alarmed and on his heels at he's at Cal Berkeley, sorry. He was alarmed and on his heels about how crazy the DEI has gotten, to the point where, these pro-Palestinian protesters couldn't see the awfulness of what had happened to the Israelis. Well, he's hashtag part of the problem, because Erwin Chemerinsky is on camera saying he's totally pro racial preferences when it comes to populating the staff at UCal Berkeley. He knows he's not supposed to, but he just keeps it quiet. Here, watch this.
But if ever I'm deposed, I'm going to deny I said this to you. When we do faculty hiring, we're quite conscious that diversity is important to us. And we say diversity is important. It's fine to say that. But I'm very careful when we have a faculty appointments committee meeting. Anytime somebody says, we should really prefer this candidate over this candidate because this person would add diversity, don't say that. You can think it, you can vote it, but our discussions are not privileged. So don't ever articulate that that's what you're doing.
That's what we're up against.
Yeah. Yeah, it's misguided and it's misdirected. It's oddly destructive, self-destructive, and we're up against it. But I think that these individuals also know that it's not producing the kind of academic rigor that their predecessors trained them into. And so, and I understand that again, you have to realize that there's outside influences for this, just blatant Marxist influences. And it's deeply, deeply misguided. I oftentimes ask people, I'm like, well, what is it going to take to realize that, our American system of merit and egalitarianism is at stake? Is it going to take your house burning down, right? Like, because that's happening, right? People's homes are literally burning down because of these policies. And for many, that has been the case.
Increased tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, and regulation changes. There's a reason why gold is a diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. To get your free copy, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold, text MK to the number 989898. Here are the facts. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. So gold is an important option, and it can be your hedge against a weakened dollar. Birch Gold can convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text MK to 989898 for your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, just information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, find out more about Birch Gold. There is a reason so many people love these guys and take all or just a small part of their existing IRAs and move them over into gold with Birch. Text MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.